I said we will have a real cool time tonight. I said we will have a real cool time tonight.
Hello, I'm Cone from the band Sum 41, and this is my show, Cone's Cave, right here on Adobe Radio. I'm out on the road right now. I'm in Europe, doing a 5-week European tour, our final European tour and UK tour for Sum 41. After this, we have our final Canadian tour, and in December we have our final Australian tour. And it just so happens on my show this week, I have an Australian. I have Christian Anthony of the group Chase Atlantic on my show. Normally on my show you hear a lot of punk, maybe even metal, old punk, garage rock. This week, I'm going to take a little turn. You know, diversity's good. I've done a lot of punk on this show. So when the opportunity came up to interview Christian from Chase Atlantic, I was like, hell yeah, let's do this. Because I like to get insights into other bands, other genres of music. I'm pretty well versed in the pop punk and punk rock scene. So this interview was very enlightening for me because I got to get a little insight into the pop world, electronic, pop rock kind of world that Chase Atlantic is. I mean, they do a lot of different genres. I wouldn't even put them in one genre, which is a good thing. So sit back, relax, and after this, you're going to hear my conversation with Christian Anthony of Australia's Chase Atlantic. All right, this is Cone's Cave, and I am Cone McCaslin from Sum 41. This is my show on Adobe Radio. I have Christian Anthony of Chase Atlantic on my show this week. Chase Atlantic, managed by Benji and Joel of Good Charlotte. They've been doing the managing thing for a while now. Friends of ours, we've known Good Charlotte since 2000, I believe. We did our first tour in vans together. No one really knew either of our bands. Very small club tour we did with them, and we've been friends with them ever since. So Chase Atlantic in good hands. And I just want to mention, you could probably hear it in my voice. I said earlier that I was on tour. And we're about almost 4 weeks in, so you're hearing the tiredness in my voice. We're having a good time, but it is tiring, of course. You know, I'm 44 years old now. You know, this was different when we were in our 20s and even 30s, but I remember when I hit the 40 mark or even 42, 43, in the past few years, I just remember feeling my body and my mind getting tired quicker than it used to be when I was, 22, 23. It was pretty much invincible back then. Not so much anymore. So in saying that, let's stop hearing me talk and let's get to the interview I did with Christian Anthony of Chase Atlantic right now. Thanks for doing this. I don't really love bugging people while they're on tour, but Sarah, put me in contact, and here we are. But yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. No, it's fine. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. All right, let's start off at kind of the beginning of the band. I'm kind of interested. I know that it looks like there was another group before this group called What About Tonight? I don't know if you guys were all in that, but I'm kind of interested when you guys formed Chase Atlantic, what you guys were kind of listening to, what was influencing you at the time. Was there ever a conversation of like, let's go down this road instead of this road? Like, what were some of your heavy influences when you were forming Chase Atlantic?
Yeah, well, when we started, we were originally just making pop videos for Clinton's university assignment, and it would have been discovering 1975. Hearing their record for the first time, we just decided we wanted to be a band. We were just producing, we're producers, so we make music behind screens, and that was the first time we thought we should probably pick up the guitars and Clinton with the saxophone, just the sound. I remember the song was Me by the 1975, and that's when we decided this is the route we want to head down. And then from there, moving to America and stuff, we got more influenced by hip hop and R&B and the bass and the rhythm section. So I think then we kind of started to go in that direction too. So it was kind of a medley of those two universes.
You guys are all in, like, you guys live in the US now?
Yeah, four of us are in Los Angeles. One is still in Australia. Try and spend as much time as we can in Australia. I'm not sure. I would love to move back soon. Spend, half the year in America and then half in Australia. But yeah, we're all Los Angeles based. We're all 10, 15 minutes away from each other. We get really bad separation anxiety.
Yeah, it's like our bands are spread out everywhere now. Like trying to rehearse is like such a headache, So it's good that you guys are kind of together. It makes it easier. What I'm not really familiar with What About Tonight. What was the difference between that group, like the first What About Tonight, and then this one? Was there a huge sound difference? Because I couldn't really pull up anything.
Yes, it's interesting. Like so Mitchell and I met through this boy band we're in. So we auditioned. There was like an audition around the country. I was 14 and Mitchell was 15, and we auditioned for X Factor. And we just met these guys, these three other members, and we ended up spending a year with them on the X Factor show.
Huh.
So we kind of learned through that exactly what a band should not be. A band shouldn't form to be on television. They shouldn't form for fame and success, and they should learn to write their own songs. And that's what Mitch and I just wanted to write songs, and we didn't feel like we were given a voice or an opportunity to do that. So we were with that band for a year. Clinton was kind of Mitchell's guardian at the time, and Clinton and I got along so well, and we got along about music production and songwriting. So we were only in that band for a year, and then Mitchell and I left the band to go back to high school. So we finished our, they had plans to move to Los Angeles, and Mitchell and I just weren't that interested. We wanted to finish high school and, tackle it later, get the degree. We weren't, we're in year 10 or something, so we had 2 more years. We just wanted to make sure to finish school.
So you guys were really young when you're on the X Factor.
Little babies, yeah.
Wow, what's the X Factor like? Like, obviously, like, we've never been on a television show like that, but I've seen The Voice a few times, and obviously, American Idol was huge over here like years ago. What's it like to be on that show? Like, is there a lot of pressure, or is there a lot of people telling you what you should be doing?
It's pretty surreal, honestly. Like, I was so young and I don't think about it a lot, but like, they took us to London and we did these home visits in London, and that was pretty surreal. And I was still in year 9, so I would go to these shows and then I would go back to school and back on the bus. It was pretty crazy, but you don't rehearse as much as they make it out to be. You have like one rehearsal day with the host, with your your guide or whatever, your mentor. They kind of make comments for the camera, and then they you never see or hear from them again. And then you go into this like room and you record all the vocals before, so you have like a backing track under. And it was pretty surreal, but it was our first experience of, like, I guess, fame in a sense, like having people who know the band who want to see you.
Yeah.
And it was, you go from, nothing, you're just in school, and then you have this experience and you have people screaming and playing in malls and stuff. It's pretty surreal, but it's definitely a little fabricated. The only thing that made me change my mind a bit on it was when Joel and Benj did The Voice, and they would take us backstage during their mentorship, and they actually cared about the people that they were mentoring. And I think that's something I didn't really experience on X Factor.
Yeah, it almost feels like, I don't know if it was with X Factor too, but the rare times I was watching these kind of shows, like, it almost seemed like there was, like, they were trying to create drama within, like, the groups. Like, there was always some kind of like soap opera going on backstage. Was that the same for that show?
Yeah. No, they do that. They you do a performance, and then you come backstage and they go, how was that? And you go, oh, it was pretty good. I think we missed a note here. And then they say, okay, start there. So talk about that note you missed. Oh, I missed a note. And they say, okay, how sad were you that you missed the note? And then the one footage they'll use is me being, I was really sad I missed the note.
Yeah, and I guess
so it's definitely like it produces, they edge you in a way, but they have to make it entertaining. I totally respect that.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, I guess it's kind of like reality show. So it's like, yeah, they need like the drama and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And you don't have like a final say in what they air, I guess. Like there's no approval for what they're gonna air either, I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh no. You sign a contract that says that they have the rights to everything. And that's what you sign up for. It's reality TV, baby.
Totally. Yeah. Is that when you met Benji and Joel? Like I've known those guys for 24 years now. Was that kind of how you met them?
No, we met them a few years later, I think when Mitch and I were about 17, 18.
Okay.
So when we were still finishing high school, we made our first EP together as Chase Atlantic. And they were out in Australia doing The Voice. So they were doing a separate show. And, you see them everywhere. They're huge, huge celebrities in Australia.
Mm.
And Joel had actually reached out to us and DM'd us about working with the band because he'd heard a song he liked. And at first we didn't think it was real. So we never replied. And then when he messaged us again, we had a little set us up to meet for the first time. And then before you know it, they became our managers, flying us to America to meet with these labels. So they really took us under their wings. And been brothers with them for going on 10 years, 11 years now.
Oh, wow, crazy. Are they fully involved? Because I know them more from the Good Charlotte stuff. We've done many tours with them, but
Yeah.
I've never really worked with them in that capacity as a manager. Are they fully involved, or they have assistants that kind of do the day-to-day, or are they the day-to-day guys?
Yeah. They have people that work for them as well, but Joel flew out to Dallas for the first show. They're very involved. We have our quarterly board meetings, which they make sure they're a part of. They're still very a part of everything. And they fly out when they can just to make sure that everything's smooth. But it's definitely more obviously there's the business side of it, but also just as brothers, they just have our backs.
Yeah.
What those guys have done for us is no other management company could come close.
Yeah, they are cool as well. I always liked those guys, and I never thought they were shady in any way. I always thought they're genuine.
Nicest guys in the world.
Yeah.
When they started it, the whole idea was, they'd been messed around by some management and labels. So their whole idea was to be a management company by artists for artists. And that's what it feels like.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of a good way to do it, because especially for someone who'd gone through it, they know how to steer bands away from that. And if they can provide that kind of service for bands, then I think that's the best way. They know, they've been around for a long time. They know where they can find shady people and what is shady. So I think that's great. I think you guys are in good hands for sure. I like those guys.
Yeah, they're the best.
I'm Cone from Sum 41. I have my show Cone's Cave right here on iDoby Radio. I want to tell you about something called HelloFresh. Let me tell you about HelloFresh. It is farm fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip all the trips to the grocery store. Who wants to go to the grocery store? I know I don't. And you can count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. And that's why HelloFresh is America's #1 meal kit. We all know the holiday season is just around the corner, and we're all looking for ways to be a little bit more stress-free around the holidays. HelloFresh makes mealtime nearly hassle-free with delicious, home-delivered, chef-crafted recipes that come quick, together quick, and come quick, and are less expensive than takeout. You can also easily customize your recipes, so each meal is just the way you like it. There are always options available to trade or upgrade proteins or swap out side dishes, etc., and so on. I've done Meal Fresh before. Take it from me. It was amazing and so quick and so stress-free. I didn't have to go to the grocery store, which I hate doing. It saved me time, The recipes were amazing. It tasted great, and I will definitely be doing it again. And so should you. All right, this is what I'm proposing. You can get 10 free meals at hellofresh.com/freecone applied across 7 boxes, new subscribers only, and it varies by plan. That's 10 free HelloFresh meals. All you have to do is just go to hellofresh.com/freecone. And remember, HelloFresh is America's #1 meal kit. Go get it now.
I'm kind of interested in this because we got signed when we were 19. We got signed to a major, Island Def Jam. And then after, I don't know, I guess we did 5 records with them. And then we parted ways with Island Def Jam. And then after that, we were on an indie. So we had a really great experience on a major in the beginning. And by the end of it, it was like total shit. Like no one cared about us. It was like they'd moved on to like hip hop and, you know, a lot of pop. And we were kind of like this bastard child rock band at the label that no one cared about anymore. And then we went to indie labels and it's been great again. I kind of want to know your experience because it looks like you guys were on Warner Brothers, but now you're this new record's on Fearless. So what was your experience with a major good, or was it the reason you left because it was so bad?
Well, so when we started, there was the CEO, Dan, I can't remember his last name, but he signed us from Warner Brothers pretty much when we played him our first record.
Yeah.
And look, it's a huge company. So, you know, they've got a lot of artists and stuff that they're dealing with. It was our first experience, but there was nothing about it that I would say was bad, but also nothing that I would say was like overly great. You know, they're a huge label and we understand. And then when the new CEO came in, he was honest with us and he spoke to Joel and Benj as well and said, look, probably going to have to focus on, he wanted to bring all of his artists on. And so they gave us the option of like, you know, do you guys want to get out of your deal early? Because we're going to be focusing on this other stuff. So we left that, but we left on good terms. There's no having to pay back anyone. But there has been definitely an improvement with Fearless because it feels more personal. You know, we know these guys, we know the A&Rs, we know everyone's names. Even the way that they printed out vinyls for us, you know, little things like that matter, that make the album feel real and physical, that you just don't really get that from a major. So I think Fearless has been great. They've also been really good with letting us control the final product, and also been very patient with us because it took 3 years to make. So
yeah.
Shout out Fearless.
I guess the one thing I noticed between like going indie and being on a major is like their bank accounts on a major are a little bit bigger. So it's like you might be able to squeeze out an extra little bit of money for a video, or they might push you to radio harder because they have more money behind it. Other than that, I don't see any point at this time to be on a major label. You know, it's like they take such a huge cut of your royalties and everything about it. And I don't know if you were on a 360 deal, but they're a lot of them are doing those 360 deals, so they get a bunch of touring and merch. And
Yeah.
God damn it! Like I don't want to give
No
any.
360 deals. No way. Not for us. Yeah, look, it's they might have more money, but it's money you have to pay back. So that 50,000 you spent for that video, you're paying that back through your royalties. So it's nice to have the bank and stuff, but it's just a loan. You still got to pay it back. So, you know, when you get to the stage and you have the ability to be independent, it's the best way to be. It's great to have labels push out lots of money for videos and for radio, but well, at the end of the day, you're paying for it. So
yeah, totally. And in this day and age when no one's really buying records or albums, it's like you're paying that money back forever.
No, it's part of the game.
Yeah, totally. I kind of want to talk to you about, because I noticed like you guys are playing some big places right now. But I know that you obviously didn't start that way. So I kind of want to know about your tour with Lights, because she's Canadian and everyone loves Lights up in Canada.
Oh, with Lights.
Yeah. How was that?
I got to say that was probably the best experience we've ever had opening up for another artist. She was the nicest ever. would always come and visit us in the green room, make sure we were comfortable. And I think there was a bit of a surprise for us as well that the fans received our music well, because obviously it was quite different. We changed the set a little bit so it was more in her realm, which is something we've done before. You know, we're a bit chameleon. Like, we can do the heavy rock thing, like do a Warped Tour set, and then we can do a pop set, alternative set. But yeah, she was incredible. Definitely, we actually ran into her when we were rehearsing for our tour, I think a year ago, and she was rehearsing next to us, and she's just the sweetest.
Yeah, totally. I don't know her that well, but I know, obviously I've known of her for so long, and she started in like small little clubs.
Yeah, she's an icon.
Yeah, totally. What's it like for you guys now? Because obviously you guys were, opening band on some stuff. You mentioned Warped Tour, which we've done so many times, but you guys are playing like big places now. Are you guys, was there any like growing pains going to these big places? Like, it's obviously like more responsibility, more pressure, more production, more money being spent, more money coming in, more money being spent. There's like a bigger crew probably. How have you guys kind of adapted to that kind of jump into like, arenas and big halls and stuff, coming from like the opening band?
I think it's been a pretty easy and natural transformation for us, because it's just been such a steady incline. Like, we never really skipped any levels. You went from the 800 to the 1,000 to you start at the 100, and then you just kept gradually going. Like, it was never this big jump. Also, we've got a great team around us, and the band, Jesse Boyle, Patrick Wilde, and us together, we're tight. We're really close friends as well. We're brothers, actually. And we can just handle it together, go through the motions together. But there's definitely going to be a crazy moment when we play the sold out O2 Arena, which is, that's a big moment for us. I think the big one as well is coming back and playing the big shows in Australia, because we had so long where we kind of were under the assumption Australia wasn't really interested in us. And, that's just not the case. So going home and playing these venues like Horden Pavilion my first concert ever was seeing Devil Wears Prada there. So that's quite a surreal full circle moment.
Yeah, it's funny that you're saying that, because when we kind of were coming up, Canada could care less about us, and we're like, wow, we really want to be big in Canada because we're from Canada and we want to be on Much Music, which was like the MTV in Canada, and they just didn't really care about us. The radio didn't really care about us until Fat Lip, our big single at the time, broke in America. Then the Canadians were like, oh, maybe we should be playing this band because they're one of ours. I guess that you're kind of finding that a little bit now too with Australia.
Yeah, I think so. I think that was just a moment where, we moved to America. We kind of skipped the Australian stuff, and we always had intentions to come back, but we just wanted to really give it a shot in America. But, to be fair, the first shows we ever did, the first people to ever come to shows were Australians. So it's crazy to go back and see these people who, were at shows 7-8 years ago, still supporting us.
Yeah. It's always like, people are always like, it must be crazy that you do well in Japan and you do well in Paris and Italy. I'm like, but it's really satisfying to me to do well in Canada because we're Canadian. And I think that goes without saying for everyone, right? Like, it must be, when you're playing, the O2 Arena in London, that's pretty satisfying. But when you can go home and play almost to the same amount of people, that's probably even more satisfying, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, you get your family and your friends to come to it. That's to show them, because, they've all got jobs, and you just go, oh, I'm just in a band. And then they see it and they go, oh, okay, you're in a band.
Yeah, it kind of legitimizes it all for your friends and family. Like, I'm gone all the time because of this.
100%. But I still, I go back to Australia and see my friends, the same friends from high school, and nothing's really changed.
You still have,
everything's the same. Yeah, I still got my exact same friends from high school, the exact same guys.
Wow, that's cool. You don't find that too often. I'm like you. Like, I have the 3 best friends that I grew up with since I was 4 or 5. I still I was just out with one of them last night. But you don't find that very
Yeah.
often. Like I talk to a bunch of musicians on the road and when we tour and stuff, and once people move, it kind of seems like it breaks friendships because you're just so far away. But that's
Yeah.
good that you've been able to keep that.
Well, I think, I went to a school that was like a creative arts school. So all my friends are in that kind of realm, whether it's acting or, painting. Got this one friend who's doing really well in the art world right now. So we've always still been able to keep tabs on each other, In a way, we're still immersed in the same world. So it's great to see them succeed, and I know that they wish me the best as well, and they're always very supportive.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's great. I'm also interested, like this year, I guess it looks like, is this your band's 10-year anniversary, right? 2024 would be 10 years. Yeah, amazing. I'm kind of interested, like in the dynamic now with you guys. Like obviously when you guys started the band, you were friends, as did we. Like we were high school friends. But as you get a little older, and it's been 10 years, and for us it's been almost 30 years, your lives change. With us, like it was a huge roller coaster. Like it was probably 2 years where we didn't even speak to each other, but now we're good again, and we're friends again, and it's all good. But I'm wondering, I don't know if your band members are in the room right now that you can really speak about it, but
I got two of them with me.
All right, well, then you can sugarcoat it if you want a little bit, but I am wondering, honestly, what the dynamic is between you guys all now. If things have changed a little bit, or if you're as tight as you were when you started.
Well, look, every band goes through the motions. I don't know. I feel like from very very early on, we were just all very close, and you're friends for a couple of years, and then you break a barrier somewhere along the lines, and you're no longer friends. You're brothers, So you might have little tiffs, but I guess the way we were raised, and to our actual brothers, is that if there's fighting, no one goes to bed sad, which is just like a microcosm for it all, If there's issues, but we just don't really have individual issues with each other. We just love each other as brothers. I don't think we've had like a riff where it would cause us to be 2 years of not speaking. We're just so close, and it sounds so cheesy, but like it's true. We go through the motions, but nothing that we can't handle.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's good to hear. What are some of your? We've been to Australia so many times. I love so many Australian bands. Who are some of your favorite domestic Australian bands that you've always?
Ooh, that's a good question. Tame Impala. It's insane. Sticky Fingers, Ocean Alley, Ocean Grove, Running Touch, Xavier Main, Jay Cooper. So many. Ice House.
Okay.
Ice House is a great one. Kylie Minogue.
Yeah.
There it is. She's the number one.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Cool. I really love. I think my all-time favorite Australian band. They're older now, but The Living End has always been my favorite.
Really?
Yeah.
We got a couple good ones at Parkway Drive as well.
Yeah, they're good. I guess because, when I discovered The Living End, I was like a teenager, and they came out, I think their first album was 99, so I was 19. And I was really into like punk, and still am obviously, but I was really into that punk thing. And when they came out, it was, with the upright bass, and yeah, I've just always loved The Living End. They're always my favorite Australian band.
Where do you know where they're from in Australia?
I believe they're from Melbourne.
Usually they're all from Perth.
Yeah, I think they are Melbourne, this band. You've never heard of them?
Cool. I've heard of them. I don't think, I'm not super familiar with the music, but I definitely know the band.
It's like rockabilly punk.
Cool.
Yeah.
Hey, this is Christian from Chase Atlantic, and you're listening to Cone's Cave.
Yes, this is Cone's Cave. I'm Cone from Sum 41. This is my show on iDoby Radio. You're hearing the conversation I had with Christian Anthony of Chase Atlantic, an Australian group that I guess, and I didn't know until this conversation, moved to LA, which a lot of bands do, even our band. In 2005, our singer Derek and our then drummer Steve both moved to LA. I decided to stay in Toronto around my family and other friends, and I guess at that time my girlfriend, who became my wife, did not want to move to LA either. And I wasn't really into LA. I love visiting LA. I love being in LA, but I just could not picture myself living in LA for some reason. And maybe that would have changed if I would have done it, but I just never loved it enough to move there. And I know I'm an exception. All right, let's get back into the conversation with Christian, and we're going to talk about some music now.
I kind of, let's get into some music now. When I was researching about all your albums, and I know you're on your 4th album coming out, but I noticed that you guys did a shit ton of EPs. So I'm wondering, and you know what, I love that strategy because, you know, I produce bands as well, and every band always wants to do an album, like a full album. I'm always like, times have changed. Like, you know, you're going to go do a 12 song album, and people are just going to go on Spotify and hit their favorite 2 songs and listen to those songs. The other 10 songs are going to be thrown away. But I love the strategy of just, I'm always pushing them to be like, just do a single or just do like a 4-song EP. Was that kind of your guys' strategy for doing all these EPs? Was because you thought, well, why do a full album if everyone's just going to listen to 3 or 4 songs anyway?
I think in a way we were inspired by how The Neighborhood in the 1975 were doing it, where it was like multiple EPs that then kind of merged into a full-length album. That was like our idea at the start. But then when we came together to make the first album, we just ended up writing completely new songs. So I don't know if it was like an intention or an intentional strategy, but I do think that EPs are a great way to convey a certain emotion, like a short emotion. Like I think of The Weeknd's EP, which is all about a situation with him in a relationship, and you can have that, and then after that, you know, he's doing After Hours. I think it's nice to have 4 or 5 songs that are just about a certain time. And then an album, in a sense, is years, you know, 2 years of your life into one piece of work, whereas an EP can be a single situation that you talk through. So I love the ideas of an EP. I really think that the next thing we do should be an EP, but
yeah, I guess the thing
with
a full album, I guess, because there's obviously like a vinyl boom now, or there has been for years now. Like vinyl is back in a big way. That I guess it's better to have an album on vinyl rather than an EP, because, you know, after 4 songs, it's done. You're going to switch the record again. I always think albums are nice. You can listen to like front to back 12 songs, and it's kind of like a journey through time of that point in time.
Yeah, I think that's how we look at it. We try and purposely place the songs in areas where you're going up and down and up and down, so that you want to listen to it from top to bottom. But I also think one thing that is why it takes us so long is we really spend a lot of time and effort on each individual song. We like to think that each song could stand alone, so it's not like making them because we think it would fit well for the album. It's every song can be a standalone, and that's just been our bread and butter.
That is a good way to look at it. You know, our second album was called All Killer No Filler. So with that idea in mind.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
That's, you know, it takes longer, but the final product is worth it.
Oh yeah. Like I think you think back to the 60s or 70s and even in the 80s, like a lot of bands were like had that one song or those 2 songs, and the rest of the album was complete garbage. And I think times have changed now. Where, yeah, like you go through all those 70s albums, like, you know, even like popular bands. Like I would listen to like these. I have them on vinyl. It's like 10 of these songs are shit, but these 2 songs are amazing. You know.
Well, those poor guys in the 60s and 70s had to release 4 or 5 albums a year. You know, I can understand why some of the songs suck.
This is true too.
You know, that's times have changed in that sense. You know, just the one album every couple of years can get the best songs. Back then, it was just they were just in the studio. Sometimes you don't make good stuff, but you got an obligation that they have to fulfill.
That, and I also think about everyone had to go to pay for a recording studio back in those days. Like you had to like go to a real studio. Now you can make a record in your bedroom for free. So you could be in your bedroom for a year making a record. I don't know how you guys do it. How do you guys go
Also, we've got Joel and Benji's studio, but we start all the songs just in our bedrooms, just on our computer on Ableton.
Yeah.
And then we transfer it over to Logic for the live recording. Clinton does the vocal engineering and the production. But yeah, you know, I would have loved to have seen. I mean, I watched the footage of like the old Beatles, and just seeing how they went by with the 4 tracks and then the 8 tracks, and just going from studio to studio to get as much as they can. Looks like it was pretty tough. That's why you needed a studio.
Yeah, totally.
You got infinite tracks now.
Yeah. Well, at least the Beatles had an endless amount of money behind them. I'm sure that the record company was not going to say no to them going to a studio, right? But I always think of like the lower tier bands back in the 60s that were just like, you had to go pay for a studio, you had to get a producer, you had to do all of this. You know, nowadays you can produce your own thing in your own house and release it on your own too. It's just so much easier and way cheaper.
Yeah, there's a button on the old Ableton that just said upload straight to SoundCloud. So you just finish a song and it goes directly to SoundCloud.
Oh yeah, they probably master it.
Maybe that was Fruity Loops. Yeah, it was probably Fruity Loops.
Oh, okay. Let's talk about the new album. It comes out, I believe, November 1st. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
cool. Awesome. So I was reading some articles on the band, and I was kind of going back to some old articles. Even in your earlier days when you first kind of came out, people were calling you like pop punk or pop rock, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but like over the years it's evolved more into like electronic music, and that's what kind of the new album sounds a little bit more electronic than your earlier stuff. Was that on purpose, or is that just kind of where you guys are at now, like personally?
Yeah, no, I think the very first EP we did had some pop punk elements, I guess. And then one of our big song, Friends, is definitely a rock song, but even Friends was made with the idea of electronic drums in mind. We definitely always felt a bit more electronic. I think as we go, we get even more electronic and try and merge the worlds, but we're definitely more of an electronic and alternative band. And then live, it's just a total rock show. So it's like there's like 2 sides of Chase Atlantic. You know, you have the clean cut production and that side, and then live you have this crazy rock show. That is why I think our tickets do so well, is because it's a completely different experience.
Yeah, totally. Are you so you mentioned that it took 3 years to make this album?
Yeah, well, if I'm honest, we've had a lot of personal stuff in our lives. It was the first time that we're not living with each other. So during COVID, we were all together for 2 years, and it was so easy to make that record because we just go from one room to another in the house. It was all produced and made in the house. So now that we all live separately, it was tough to get, to turn on the Chase Atlantic mode. So we went to Tahoe to try and make an album, and we failed. We left with Ricochet though, which is one of my favorite songs. We went to Malibu, we tried, we failed. We went to MDDN, we went to houses, we just couldn't do it. And then finally, the top of this year, we found a studio in Studio City that was a complex with 3 studios in it. And we kind of said to each other, we were like, we have to come out of something with this.
Yeah.
And we sat down, produced some new songs with the intentions of like, what does Chase Atlantic sound like? What does we sound like? Not trying to steal from other artists or be inspired by other artists. Just how do I make a Chase Atlantic song? And we actually ended up going into the vault for a lot of old instrumentals that had been produced over the 3 years. And just naturally together, it started forming this cohesiveness. I think it would have been by the 3rd song, it was like, wow, we have a theme. There's a theme to this record. Why do you think
the other studios failed for you guys? Were your heads just not in it? Or were you thinking about stuff at home? Were you wanting to be, I don't know, if people are married or with girlfriends? Like why did those other studios not work out?
Well, that was Lake Tahoe's fault. We were in the worst storm in 100 years. And we're 3 Australians. So we had no idea how to deal with snowstorms.
Yeah.
We learned, I'll tell you what, we learned. We could do it again. I think Yeah, Tahoe, that wasn't on us. That was not on us. I think the issue was just we didn't lock ourselves away. You know, we'd have 2 days in the studio, we'd come up with an idea, and then, you know, we wouldn't go back to the studio for a week, and then we'd forget about the song. So we just weren't consistent, and we weren't, yeah, I guess our heads and hearts weren't really in it for a bit until it was crunch time, and it was like, we need to do something. You know, the fans are like, where's the album? And we're sitting there going, we don't have one. Like, we haven't made one yet. Yeah. So realistically, from when the process started was February, but it is a collection over the last 3 years, and it's storytelling over the last 3 years.
Yeah, that's cool. You know, I was going to say, like, you know, a lot of times bands going to LA to record sometimes is a problem because of all the temptations that Los Angeles has, because there's like always something to do, always something going on, always a band coming through town. There's always clubs and all that stuff. But it seemed like it was the opposite for you. It's like you guys did it in Studio City, so that wasn't an issue for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. I feel in a way we wrote all these songs about these characters that we were kind of creating, like this, you know, based off true stories, but we like over exaggerated them. And then with this record, it's like, well, we're not exaggerating anymore. You know, it's like we became those people that we created, and it's just art imitating life. And I always compare it, like, not to make the comparison ever because he's an absolute legend, but David Bowie with Ziggy Stardust. You know, he was singing about, you know, Ziggy Stardust and the spiders from Mars, but then he became Ziggy Stardust.
Yeah, totally. I love Bowie, by the way. Good.
Yeah. By the way, I'm not trying to say that we're like, he's arguably top 3 greatest of all time.
Oh yeah, for sure. I agree with that. You mentioned Ricochet as one of your favorites on the album. How did that one come about? Because that was part of like those early sessions in those studios that didn't really work out for you guys. But what was it about that one? How did that one come about? What was it about? And why did that one work out?
So it started in Tahoe. We started the instrumental in Tahoe during the storm. And we just, you know, it was just like a little demo idea. And if you listen to the lyrics, it's pretty literal, you know, like the first lyric is billowed up in a winter storm. We literally were in a winter storm. And then it was about us almost getting a bit, you know, cabin fever with each other. And it's about the relationships we have with each other, you know, getting a bit testy during those times. That song followed us. It came out of Tahoe, you know, there for 3 weeks, and we were able to send the label and management one incomplete song. And then when we got back to the studio in Blackwoods, we'd forgotten about the song. And I think Mitchell heard the song again, and then he went home that night and repurposed it and then added that really cool bass from the bridge because he just wanted to break it up. And then he came back with that song, and we added the guitar back into it, and then he recorded the first verse and the chorus and the bridge and the ending. So long, we just couldn't figure out a second verse, if he was going to do it or if I was going to do it. And then I think he was in Japan, and I ended up saying, I'm just going to do it. So that's how that song came about. It's quite a beautiful story because the song's traveled with us to Brazil, to Australia, to everywhere. It's been all over the world, and we've finally finished it and released it. And it's definitely a special song.
Till you feel we're raising. And I said I wouldn't get involved, but fuck it, I'm a human being. I don't like the way I'm feeling, crying till the tears is all. Wait, raise my bottle in the air, then I smash it off the wall, singing Ricochet. Inspired, but the bullet hit me anyway. So much blood in the bin, take your time to let it stain. I need more than liquid codeine and promethazine therapy. Yeah, I'll do anything to kill this pain. I'm so tired and I've only got myself. to me. Your looks like a movie. I've been awake, I've been feeling lucid. Dreaming a dream, dreams are always lucid. I'm on the road, can't keep me focused. I've been up too long. I'm just a narcissist, these drugs I've been on got me intoxicated. I'm intoxicated, I'm intoxicated. Ricochet, misfired with the bullet, hit me anyway. So much blood in the pen, take it down, don't let it stain. I need more than liquid codeine and promethazine therapy. Shit, I'll take anything to kill this pain. I'm so tired and I've only got myself to blame. Might not make it to my 30s, taking out the grave. Until then I keep on smiling. Tell the devil go to hell, I do it for the hiney, yeah. Can't look behind me. That's just in the past, can't look behind me now. Keep on writing, I'll make future for writing now. Pools of blood all in her Bentayga. She wanna fuck, I say yes, baby. I'm on a bus, I might, yeah. Sitting with my thoughts and a remedy. I'm still knee deep in this fuckery. Still can't let go of the trouble scenes in my head. Bleed in my bed alone. Yeah. She said your love's like a movie.
There's a song called Ricochet by Chase Atlantic, a brand new song off their brand new album called Lost in Heaven. Just came out a few weeks ago. Check that out on Fearless Records. I'm Cone from Sum 41. This is my show, Cone's Cave, right here on Adobe Radio. You just heard the conversation I had with Christian Anthony from Chase Atlantic. I will be right back. All right, this is Cone's Cave. I'm Cone from Sum 41. This is my show right here on Adobe Radio. Thanks for tuning in. I just had Christian Anthony from Chase Atlantic on my show. Group from Australia. We in Sum 41 are heading to Australia in December, and so is Chase Atlantic. Both of our bands will be in Australia in December, so check the tour dates. Chase Atlantic doing a lot of touring as well. They're just, as we are speaking and doing this interview, they were in America. So they are everywhere, just like we are, because they have a brand new album out called Lost in Heaven. Check it out on Fearless Records. Just came out a couple weeks ago. And those guys are going to be very, very busy if they're not already. All right, I'm going to run. Thank you, Christian, for coming on the show. Thank you to Adobe Radio for having Cone's Cave on their station. I'll be back in a few weeks. Until then, I got to go.